Hi, this is Professor Mcallister. I'm here in Washington, D.C. for the Black Mental Health Conference. I have a volunteer cameraman. His name is Jackson. He goes to Xavier High School. And that's where my niece was a speaker this recent graduation, and she's going straight to medical school. So right now, we're going to go into the meditation room right now. The brother just spoke about coming from Brooklyn, and I'm coming from Brooklyn, but it takes us to be in D.C. to hook up. You figure that one out. Follow me.
Question I'm going to prioritize here because it's something that we spoke about at our annual meeting in San Francisco, myself and some of my colleagues back in the Black Psychiatry Consults, Dr. Jordan there and Dr. Kim Gordon. Hello. So when we talk about resilience, some researchers argue that resilience or bouncing back after trauma is a fallacy because of the damage done and the changes to the individual forever. Is this true? And I think also something that we need to discuss is, should we always be expecting minorities or underrepresented patients to just bounce back and be resilient? Or should we be moving towards understanding that there is resiliency, but understanding that these things need to be discussed and treated, and not just saying, oh, well, they're Black, they're resilient, the Black community gets over things like that. Any comments from the panel?
Most definitely. So, yes, I definitely believe that there is resiliency, but there is resiliency based upon the ability to adapt, and you are forever changed, because when you adapt to something, you are changing your self-image and your understanding of your world to adapt to that. It doesn't mean that you are unaffected. It means that you're affected, but you can continue to move forward. And yes, there has been an unrealistic expectation that we've put on ourselves and the greater society has put on us as Black people, that we do bounce back from trauma. And it's one of the reasons why we feel maybe that we don't need to go to seek care and seek treatment. But I think it's important, just as I close, by saying that this information, this work that I talked about, lets us know that it's important to get the coping skills and to get the treatment so that it can give us the framework through which we can process these things that have happened to us, both now and transgenerationally.
I just want to keep in mind on this thing of resilience. We're looking at biology through medicine. Medicine looks at what's the problem and, of course, how to treat that. But the genome is about biology and living systems. And most of our genome is about what allows us to be here. From a genome perspective, every one of us is successful at the highest measure, which is we're here. We're here. That means our genome from the beginning, traveling through our history to now, has acquired what's needed for us to be alive, to be here. That's important to keep in mind, because the genome is what has allowed us to adapt over time. And keep in mind, we're doing mapping of genes because we're looking through medicine and we're looking for the bad gene, the pathology. But we're looking at sequences that distinguish us, that have traveled over time. There was no such thing as a hypertension gene, an asthma gene, a diabetes gene. There were sequences of variation that were part of our adaptation. So the question we need to understand now is, what role does that sequence that now can be statistically associated with a disease, what role does it play in the overall resiliency and its economy of our health? Is what I'm saying. It had a role before we got the science today. And we need to understand that before we start tinkering and changing based on what we know today. That's why we got to be in this discussion. We've got variations that are unique to our people and to our individuals. And we need to do the research. We've got to be involved in the research so we'll know what else might be affected when we change this that affects diabetes. We got to be involved in the research to get the data.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions and we only have 10 more minutes. Is there anything you can share about the importance at the microbiome level of the gut and stress mental health connection for women?
I don't know if it's for women. I think it's just about for everybody. So for those of you who don't know about the microbiome, it's the makeup of bacteria that are in our intestines. And there's an ideal balance of bacteria in our intestines that promote good health. And it's not just good health in the intestines, it's good health throughout the entire body. And that bacteria actually travels up to our nervous system and influences the health of our nervous system and has been implicated in any number of diseases when our microbiome gets thrown off. And the things that throw it off are our diet, right? So eating highly processed foods, junk foods, not a lot of healthy foods and fruits and vegetables, and stress. Stress greatly throws off our microbiome. So there's definitely a pathway through which toxic stress or stress of any kind that's not managed adequately can affect our health through throwing off the balance of healthy bacteria in our gut, such that it then goes to affect the health of our entire body. And there are actually channels in the gut that open up that cause what's called leaky gut syndrome, such that toxins can then easily pass into our body when that microbiome is thrown off and get into our bloodstream and affect the level of inflammation in our body, which then leads to further chronic disease.
That was my question. I just had a little piece. The reason I said women is I just wanted more information about like vaginal health and some of the things that are linked to reproductive things that I feel like women don't talk about regarding like microbiome.
Sure.
Health balance.
So specifically for reproductive health, as far as inflammation is the common pathway through which reproductive issues, just as I showed on the slide, anything from infertility to yeast infections, all those things are influenced by inflammation, which the step backward from that can be an unhealthy microbiome.
Okay, so we have all these cards, so I'm just going to choose one. But know that if you go into on the website, you can see our contact information, social media. And we can, if you tweet me, I'll pass it to Dr. Dunston as well. And the website for the conference, it has everyone's contact information and social media information if they provided it. So the last question, I think this is a very appropriate question. It says, is it reasonable to explore mind-body interventions for increasing regulation of a genome that would support overcoming toxic stress?
Absolutely. This whole era is the mind-body connection. And it deals mostly with identity. The genome deals with identity. We have spin-off things like we do an ancestry study. But I have you to know, while ancestry is interesting and it can give us information, most of the genome is about destiny. Okay. Most of the genome that we have not discovered, and we will find that who we are, how we are made, and we were made with a purpose.
Yes.
And we can now use good science. We can use good science to get data because people will believe data. They may not believe what you say, but they can't deny what we'll be able to do.
Thank you.
And I just want to take one moment to acknowledge Dr. Edwin Chapman, who walked into the room a little bit late. He's the second author on this paper, and this work was done in his practice regarding the pharmacogenomics of buprenorphine. So, Dr. Chapman. And he's going to be speaking later today.
Okay, so I'm going to just finish so that if you do have some questions, additional questions for the panelists, you can come up and ask. And as we close, this is just something that I want you to remember as you go through, that as we talked about last night, Dr. Stewart, one of my mentors, talked about last night, it's interesting that now we've gotten into this disconnection between the mind and the body. And we need to bring it back together, because you cannot heal your body if you don't first heal your mind. Thank you.
Insane, that's how I feel, that's how I feel. my heart on fire. It burned with desire. My world is falling down without you. You kept my heart on fire. It burned with desire. My world is falling down.
I'm feeling right to be by your side.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling ready to have you forever in my life.
Oh yeah.
Baby, I'm hasty, but I need to tell you.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are the only one. 'Cause there's something special about you. I can feel all the feelings strong. 'Cause you are the one I belong to.
Oh yeah. Insane. You make me crazy, insane. That's how I feel, that's how I feel. This goes out to all my girls, goes out to all my boys. Go crazy in the club. Insane.
Come on,
You make me crazy,
Yeah,
make me
come on,
crazy.
come on.
Insane.
come on, come
That's
on.
how I feel, that's how I
come on,
feel.
come on.
Insane,
come on,
insane, crazy,
Yeah,
make me
come on,
crazy,
come on.
make me crazy.
Yeah, come on, come
That's
on.
how I'm crazy, that's how I'm
come on,
crazy.
come on.
Insane, that's how I feel, that's how I feel. Insane, you make me crazy, make me crazy. Insane, that's how I feel, that's how I feel. We shared so many